We want to talk to you about one specific side of this matchup that I think gets forgotten about. There's so many star players in this game. Obviously, there's Hall of Fame guys. We already know Mahomes and Kelsey are going to be there, on and on and on and on. But I'm pretty fascinated by the coaching aspect of this when you think about Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan, two guys who have been in these types of spots a lot, but two guys that handle things in a much different way. And I guess more specifically, I'm curious about the aggression factor in this matchup. You see the Kansas City Chiefs willing to go for it on fourth down twice in the AFC Championship game. I would say the 49ers have had a little bit more of a passive approach in these playoffs, settling for a lot of field goals, slow playing things. How do you think aggression and assertiveness from a coaching standpoint might come into play on Sunday night?
Yeah, I think aggression is really going to come into play in this matchup because you have like two really good offenses, right? I mean, obviously the 49ers have been extremely explosive, and we know the Avengers of a lineup that they have. But even with the struggles that the Chiefs have had this year, like we've talked about it, right? Like the wide receiver stuff, like the drops or the offensive line penalties, just kind of pushing them behind the sticks. We still know what they're capable of because they have Patrick Mahomes, they have Travis Kelsey, and we've seen Rashee Rice's emergence as well. And so I think with the way both coaches, Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan, are going to be calling plays, and when you get in those situations where you think about going for it on fourth down, I think we're going to see a lot of aggression, just knowing what's on the other side, right? Like what the other offense is capable of. So I think we could see a lot of aggression. I think we could see a lot of points on the board too. I know both teams have great defenses, but I think just because of the caliber of the offenses, and then just with the Chiefs more so the potential of their offense because of Mahomes, I think that's really going to play into Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan's calculus heading into the Super Bowl.
It's funny. We think of the Chiefs as being a very well-coached team, and they are a very well-coached team. Andy Reid is incredible. But you brought up penalties. I wonder what role that might play in this game. The Chiefs are a heavily penalized team. They had a touchdown wiped off the board in the AFC Championship game. It obviously didn't bite them in the end. But do you worry at all that might raise its head in a game of this magnitude where we've seen crucial flags come into play on a regular basis, even in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think that's something to be concerned about if you're the Chiefs, just because that's kind of who they've been this year, right? And we know we know their propensity to kind of like turn it on in these moments, and obviously they've been on an incredible run since Christmas, just in terms of stacking up wins and whatnot. But it's kind of like who they were this year, and I don't expect that to all of a sudden change just because it's the Super Bowl. We obviously know that the Chiefs can rise to the occasion in terms of like those critical plays and situations and moments of the game, but because it's been who they are, I wouldn't necessarily expect anything different, and they're going to have to kind of be prepared for that, to kind of expect that. I mean, we know Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey are going to kind of lead the charge, but because it's who they've been this year, I don't expect that to like, I mean, obviously they can have a clean game and they want a clean game, but just because it's kind of like who they've been, I wouldn't be surprised to kind of see it show up in this game. And then we obviously know what's on the other side in terms of the Chiefs having George Karlaftis, 10.5 sacks, Chris Jones, 10.5 sacks. I mean, these are like premier pass rushers in this league. And I think, they could get to the Chiefs, their O-line into their head a little bit. And so I think that's definitely something to be concerned about if you're KC.
49ers are not strangers to big games. And Kyle Shanahan coached them in a Super Bowl 4 years ago. He was in the Super Bowl with Atlanta. But I am curious. We know the Chiefs can perform in big moments like this. Obviously, they came back against San Francisco, 10-point deficit in the last 8 minutes of that game. They were trailing heading into the fourth quarter against Philadelphia last year. They managed to win. On the 49ers side of this thing, thinking about Kyle Shanahan, do you worry at all about combating failures of the past, I guess, and just, getting this over the finish line, knowing that the Chiefs know how to finish this game? And to this point, Kyle Shanahan teams have struggled with that. Do you think that might weigh into some decision making in this game, particularly in the crunch time moments?
I mean, it certainly could, Dave, and I'm sure that's going to be in his mind, at the back of his mind, just because that's kind of been his history in these moments. But I think something the 49ers have showed is that grit to like kind of finish games when things have kind of gotten bad. I mean, if you remember, like earlier in the year, they were like the Super Bowl favorite, right? They were beating teams by 15, 20 points, it seemed. But then it got to a point in the year where they started to figure out like kind of how to win those close games, to win those games to where it didn't look pretty. And I think that has kind of added a new component to like this version of Kyle Shanahan's 49ers. And we obviously saw what they did against the Lions, coming back from that massive halftime deficit. And I'm kind of spacing on previous games where they've also had to like come back from like the Packers
They did it
game, right?
against Green Bay as well, yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that's kind of a part of the identity of these 49ers. And even though historically, right, like Kyle Shanahan hasn't been good in these moments, I think this year's team is maybe more equipped just because they have the proof of the pudding, right? They've shown the reps of succeeding when everything has kind of gone against them, and they've still found a way to win games. So I think that's important to consider from the San Francisco side of things.
1-31 when the Niners have gone into the fourth quarter trailing by 5 or more points under Kyle Shanahan. But the one win was last time out in the NFC Championship game, and they also rallied against Green Bay as well. So maybe there's no time like the present